Welcome to the third and final video of your video project series. If you are not doing the Reading Resource Unit, you do not have to watch this video. This video will be a little more in depth than the toolkit and the New to Me paper because it's more involved than those two, which is why it's one project for 40 points. You are going to submit 3 different components for this 40 point unit, 40 points. The first thing you're going to have is a research-based rationale for why why instruction in this area is important and what typical instruction looks like. You're then going to have a sample lesson plan and some background information. And then you're going to have a letter to the parents or guardian of the student explaining what you would be doing with their student. It's important to keep parents in the loop, and so this is good practice. Remember, you're not actually implementing this semester or any semester. This is simply practice. And don't forget to look at the information that's uploaded into ELC for more details and a rubric. Now I'm going to say that this project, because it's got some details and some layers to it, requires you to play around a little bit first. You may get a little frustrated in the beginning. Push through it. You're welcome to come to me with questions, but I think if you sort of think about it and look at the different components, it will fall into place for you. So the first thing I'm going to tell you about is the first component of your unit, and that's the research-based rationale. I would like that to be 3 to 4 pages, which is double spaced. So in actuality, it's 1.5 pages to 2 pages in the way I think. And I would like you to have a description of your student and your goal, and you can just cut and paste that or retype it from Iris, and I'll talk to you about that in a second. And you're going to explain the resource behind your chosen literacy skill. So if you are going to teach vocabulary and you decide to use a certain method, then I want you to be able to explain to me why that is a good way to teach vocabulary. Please use current research. So for me, that's in the past 25 years. So do not, if you were going to teach phonics, do not go back to 1960 to get your phonics instruction rationale and research. Stay current. Then you're going to go to the Iris Peabody Resource Center locator, and I'm going to take you there in just a minute, and type in case study. From the options that are available, you are going to choose a case study related to literacy, and generally that's going to come under learning strategies or reading, writing, and language arts. If you can make a case for using something to do with another topic, by all means, go for it. Each case study document in Iris has multiple case studies. So one document might have 4 or 5 case studies. You only need to look at one. And the reason that I'm having you go through that process is it gives you a target student and some resources and some information about a student to work with. It's really hard, I think, to implement or to do a lesson plan when you don't have students in mind. And because you're not teaching right now, you're not necessarily doing any lesson plans. So that's why we're using the Iris as a resource. You can use the resources that are listed in Iris, or you can use your own skills to find out more about this topic. Use APA, and don't forget to read the instructions. So let me take you to Iris for just a moment. Okay, so this is what it's going to look like. This is Iris. And so what I want you to do here is type in case study. And it's going to change in just a second. Oops, once I hit search. And now here are all the case studies. I think I'd already done this search. I can find case studies under all of these different topics. I am going to go to reading, literacy, and language arts. Oh no, see, it never went to the case study, but here they are. There are your case studies. And there are several different documents that you can choose from. So let's say you want to work on fluency. grades 3 through 5. You're going to click and open that document. You've got some information in here that you're going to want to explore. If you'll notice, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different case studies that you can choose from, and then different information on how to work with those students. So let's look at just the first one to give you an idea. It talks about fluency here. And then you've got a student who's a little over 8.5. She's in the 3rd grade. Her name is Andrea or Andrea, and her focus is sight words. It gives you the scenario. Who is Andrea and why does she need to work on sight words? And the teacher's goal is that Andrea is going to start saying these words automatically. So she's not going to have to go through the decoding system. She's going to recognize the words and just be able to say them. And so instead of saying she's going to say typical. And then there are different strategies that you could use. You don't have to do this assignment. That is not yours. It's mostly to give you this information. And then if we go down to the star sheets, so you can take a look at those. So a star sheet is strategies and resources, and it just provides you with a, as it says, a description of a well-researched strategy that can help you work with your students. They've got research right here for you that you can use, and it's current. And then it's got some tips for you. So you can then explore some of these different star sheets, there are several of them, and see if there's anything in here that you would want to use. You're not required to use the information in the star sheets, but it's a great starting point. Okay, so again, it can seem a little overwhelming until you start playing around with it and writing out what you're supposed to do. So the next thing you're going to do is create a sample lesson plan. How are you going to help your student reach her goal or his goal? How are you going to help Andrea become so fluent that she's going to recognize those sight words automatically? So your lesson is going to include the setting. So I know where you're working with Andrea. Is this a tutoring session? Is this in class? Have you pulled her out? And what you're working on, the measurable objective of your lesson, and it's different than your goal, and the student's present level of performance, which is their plop, the materials you might need, and how you're going to introduce the lesson. You're going to have to play around with this until it feels right to you. So again, don't think you should have all of this information automatically. Let me go down to this and then I'm going to go back. So your letter to the parents and guardians. Compose a letter to the parent or guardian and explain what you're going to be working with their student, with their child. And so why is this important? What's the goal for the student? How you're going to help that student reach the goal? What this parent or guardian can do at home? What the parent or guardian might want to look for, and how that parent or guardian could work with you. So if you are working on automaticity, you could say, I'm sending Andrea home with some flashcards. It might be a really great idea if you practiced with her, or if you are working on, if you have a parent that you've talked to and they've labeled some items in their house, you know, chair, desk, pencil, and they notice that Andrea is starting to say those words and point, then they might want to let you know that. So how involving parents and giving them ways to be involved in their students' education as well as understanding what you're doing is, in my opinion, one of the most important things that you can do. And it builds a strong relationship with you and the parent and the student. So, okay, so going back to the lesson plan, just quickly, when I'm thinking of a lesson plan, I would, again, reference Andrea, and I would make up a goal for Andrea. So you might say that Andrea currently can read 20 out of 100 sight words. She's at 20%. And for her grade level, she should be reading all of the sight words at the 4th grade level. And so your goal is to get her to 40%. You want to double that because going from 20 to 100% is not the best goal because it's very difficult to attain. So your goal might be to double that, take her to 40%. Your measurable objective of the lesson might be that she recognizes 8 words over a 2-week period. It could be that she recognizes 5 words over a 2-week period and that she can use those words, point to those words in a text, read them, and write them. And then you're going to talk about, you're going to reference the Common Core if there's a way that it relates to your student. Anything that you might need. So you might say, I'm going to use manipulatives, I'm going to use Scrabble tiles, I'm going to use magnets, I'm going to use index cards, I'm going to use a book. And then how you're going to introduce the lesson, what you'll be doing during the lesson, and your closing activity, and whether the students whether your student met the objection, how you're going to assess, the objective of the lesson. So your lesson could be a 1-day lesson, in which case obviously the goal would not be for someone to memorize 8 words, or it could be a 1-week lesson that you would come to for 15 minutes a day. Does that make sense? So think about an hour of activity that you'd be referencing, but you could reference that we're going to spend 15 minutes a day on helping Andrea become fluent, or we're going to spend an hour over 1 day because we're working on that as a class. Hopefully that gives you what you need to do this lesson. Again, I realize that it's complicated and you're maybe a little frustrated and feeling like you have to puzzle it out. So once you've thought about it, come to me with questions. And I really look forward to learning from all of you as you do these lessons. Thanks.